5 principles that I feel like would have been so helpful for me as I was starting off in my career journey, because baby, when I say I Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kara, and on this channel we talk about building successful careers while also having full lives outside of them. So if that interests you or you're curious about what exactly that means, make sure you pause this video right now and subscribe to my channel so that way you're notified anytime a new video goes live. All right, so we are officially in graduation season, and in fact, the day this video goes live, I would have graduated from the illustrious Spelman College 11 years ago, which is actually so crazy to say out loud. And the more and more I think about it, I first and foremost, it's like, where the heck did time go? It does feel like 11 years because so much has happened, but also it feels like I graduated yesterday. And so because of this, I have been just in the spirit of reflection, really thinking about career principles that I had for myself at that time. I can recall graduating in 2015, and I actually got my job offer the first day of senior year, and I can remember feeling like a sense of relief, a sense of like, okay, I did it. Like, all I need to do is graduate, and then it's smooth sailing from there. Because, you know, I grew up in learning about approaching careers and success very linearly. You know, you do well in school so that you can get a good internship, so that you can get a good job, and then you can climb the corporate ladder. And while that version of success still exists in very small pockets, I think the reality is we are just living and working in very, very different times. And so I want to share, you know, 5 career principles that are going to be very instrumental for you if you are just starting off on your career journey, or even if you are someone who is years deep in this thing like myself. I feel like these are career principles that I have built over the last 11 years through experience, and I think that these are relevant even though the world of work is changing so much. These are foundational, and these are some of the mindsets and the habits and just the ways in which I encourage you to approach this area of your life. For careers to be so instrumental into your life and your quality of life, I don't think people really understand that. Your career really impacts everything. It can impact your overall health and well-being, your relationships, your income, just so many factors. Though it is just one part, it is a big part. And so I'm sharing these principles through trial and error, things that I wish somebody would have sat me down and told me. These are some things that I would keep in mind as you are approaching your career. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so starting off with the first principle, and I almost feel like this one is the most important. These principles are definitely not in order of importance, except for this first one, because I do feel like it really does kind of set the tone and sets the direction for how you approach the rest of your career. And that is that you need to define success for yourself. Let me repeat that again. You need to define success for yourself. Do not let your parents, your friends, people on social media, or societal expectations define it for you. Because if you let them, they definitely will. I feel like this took so long for me to understand that I was chasing titles and companies and things that I thought would make me appear successful over really listening to the things that I actually cared about, the things that I actually wanted to do. And I think what you will find is that once you're chasing things that are not truly meaningful for you, you will end up dissatisfied, you will end up unhappy. This is how you end up burnt out, right? Being burnt out does not just come from working hard and not having any breaks. It also can come from misalignment. And so I really encourage you to pause and ask yourself these couple of questions to really define what success looks like for you. Because once you kind of have your North Star, this is advice that I give all the time to people who are just starting out on their career, and they're like, what are some advice that you would give to me? My very first piece of advice is that you need to have a North Star for yourself. Where is it that you're actually trying to go? I can remember being like a couple of years into my career, and I absolutely hated when people were like, so like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I know that they were asking from a place of curiosity and maybe from a place of like wanting to be helpful. But at that time, it felt so overwhelming and I felt so much pressure to have the right answer that I would often end up saying like, I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm very open, still trying to figure it out, because I thought that this would make me appear kind of more, like I said, open, more interested in exploring a lot of options. But I actually had a mentor sit me down and say, Kiera, you need to stop saying you don't know what you want to do. Okay, even though that may be true, you need to pick a direction and you need to start going that way. Because if not, people are not able to give you constructive criticism or feedback or advice because you're not giving them much to work with. It's very similar to like if you got in a car with somebody and you're like, okay, where are we going? And they're looking at you like, oh, I'm not sure, we're just gonna drive. And you're like, okay, drive where though? In what direction? North, south, east, west, right? Are you looking for warmer weather, cooler weather? Are you looking for beaches or skyscrapers, right? You need to have somewhat of an idea in mind. And that does not mean that you cannot change your mind, which gets into a principle a little bit later. But again, having a direction in mind will at least set you out on your momentum. So here are a few questions to just keep in mind is, what do you want your overall life to feel like? If you wake up on a random Tuesday, for example, what do you want to do? What kind of work energizes you? What kind of environment do you like to work in? What kind of people do you like to work with, right? And it's okay if you don't have an answer to some of these questions, because I definitely didn't. I've learned over time and through experience what this looks like for me, which has allowed me to like continue to mold and shape the direction that I'm going in. But again, you need to have a definition defined for yourself. Okay, so that's the first principle. Principle number 2 is all about how to approach your career. I would encourage you to approach your career like an experiment. As I mentioned in the first principle, when people asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, I said that I felt pressured. I felt overwhelmed with feeling like I had to choose one exact answer, and that once I chose that, like that was it. I was putting my stake in the grass. Very similar to like Divergent. I don't know if there are any Divergent fans. I love Divergent. Also love Shailene Woodley, but that's again another conversation for another day. But you guys remember when they had to kind of pick their faction system, and it was like, once you pick, you can't change. It doesn't matter. Like you're in it for life, That's kind of how sometimes it can feel when you're approaching your career, but that is the exact opposite of how you should feel. You want to approach your career like an experiment, meaning you want to try something, right? You want to reflect on it, you want to adjust, and then you want to repeat. You want to kind of approach your career in this cyclical cycle of saying, you know what, this really interests me, so let me test it out. Let me just see if my hypothesis about me enjoying this particular thing is actually true. Because I think sometimes times what you will find out is you are going to have to conduct multiple experiments in your career over time. For me, for example, I have conducted so many experiments because I've had so many ideas of what success looks like for me and what are the type of things and the type of work that I would enjoy. So I have gotten my TEFL certification, which means I can teach English in a foreign country. I, at one point in time, wanted to get my PhD, and so I became a research assistant for one of my pro fights, and it was unpaid, but it was a great way for me to kind of get exposure to what my day-to-day would look like as a PhD student, because I had no idea. I took a 7-month career break and just traveled because at that time I was burnt out and I didn't know what else I wanted to do, and so I prepared for 2 years to take a break. So these are different experiments that I have conducted myself on my career, and they definitely made me more open, more adaptable, more flexible. And again, the idea is to kind of collect information through all of these experiments. It's also a way to kind of ease that pressure, again, of feeling like you are locked in on whatever decision you make at any point in time. You're not. Have that informational interview, volunteer for that project, get involved in a professional organization in your community, right? Find ways to test out what it is that you are interested in before feeling like you have to fully commit and make the leap. And I really encourage you to do this because I think sometimes a lot of us try to think our way to an answer, and the reality is most of your learning is going to come from doing. It's going to come from experience. So again, take the pressure off of asking yourself, what do I want to do forever? And really think about, what do I want to do next? All right, moving on to principle number 3. As you are having all of these experiences, you want to get in the habit of documenting. This is one habit that I wish I would have been more diligent about throughout my career, and this is in addition to your resume. So I know that your resume does keep history of some of your most impactful projects and the impact and the skills that you have and you are building, but it's also important to keep track of the small things, because over time, those small things and those small details will get lost. So I really encourage you to create your own version of a brag book. And if you are not familiar with a brag book is essentially a collection of your accomplishments, your feedback that you have collected, impact that you are making, skills that you are growing, classes that you are taking, etc. It is a way to kind of co-locate all of those things in one central location. So this looks different for everybody in terms of what is the tool or the mechanism that you will use to do this. Some people have like a folder on their desktop, and so when someone maybe sends feedback through an email, they'll just put that email in a folder, or they may drop samples of their work in that folder. Some people, like myself, I use a system that I have developed in Notion, and I will leave it linked down below if you are looking for something a little more structured and you are a Notion girly like me. Even if you are not, I definitely recommend that you check it out. It is just a great way to digitize everything and have it in one central location again. So all that to say, yes, get in the habit now. And this is a good habit no matter where you are in your career experience. You need to be documenting everything that you are doing. Get in that habit now. Again, even the small things, those details that you think do not matter, you may want to reference them later on when you're looking back at your experience, when you are applying for a role, when you are just trying to have a little boost of confidence and remember how much you have grown. This is going to be the tool for you. All right, principle number 4, and this is something that is also very near and dear to my heart. I would say this is something that I am most known for, or people ask me about the most, and that is building a life outside of work. As I alluded to at the beginning of this video, while your career does impact a lot of your life, it is still only a small piece of it. And so a lot of the times when people are frustrated or not seeing the results that they want from their career, I will ask them to take a few steps out and think about their overall life. What are they doing with their time outside of those 8 to 10 hours a day that they're working? How are their relationships? How are their habits? How are they taking care of their body? How are they contributing to the community in which they are living and working? I really encourage every working professional to be very intentional about the life that they are building outside of work. Your hobbies, your friendships, making sure that you are traveling, you are resting, you are finding ways to build joy into your everyday life. The benefit of doing this also absolves you from when something is going on at work, or if you are, God forbid, laid off, not feeling like everything around you is crumbling because you have other pillars in your life that are still standing and still holding the fort, even if you are working on rebuilding this one area. And last but not least, principle number 5, I would make sure that you give yourself permission to change your mind, because you're going to. And it's okay to change your mind. It does not mean that you are not disciplined. It does not mean that you are lost or that you don't know what you're doing. I remember having a conversation with my line sister maybe a few years after I graduated, and I remember saying to her, like, girl, I'm sure people look at me like I'm crazy because one day I want to do this and the next day I'm saying I want to do that. My mind is always changing, and I'm sure, again, they think like I just don't know what I want to do. And I remember her being like, girl, oh my gosh, me too. Like, I feel this way as well. And I just think that people need to hear that others feel that way, and that it's okay to feel that way. When you really think about the fact that at 22, you are being asked to pick a path for the rest of your life when you have only experienced this much of it, is crazy to me. Okay, it doesn't make sense. And so I want people to feel okay with trying something, deciding that it no longer works, and also knowing that what works in one season of your life may not work for another season in your life. And that's okay too. I think that a lot of the times more friction comes when we are trying to hold on to things that it is very clear that it is time to let it go. It's clear. And so again, I want you to feel like you have the permission, you are empowered to change your mind at any time. You are not stuck with one version of success. You get to build as you go. And that is the beauty of careers, honestly. All right, y'all, so that is it. Those are the 5 career principles that I wanted to leave you with. I think that they are so beneficial no matter where you are in your journey. I really encourage you to take ownership of your career. If there's anything that I can leave you with, it is that. It is that you get to decide what your career looks like, what it feels like, and do not give that permission or that ownership to define what that is for yourself to anyone or anything else. Do not put pressure on yourself to feel like you have to have it figured out today or tomorrow or next year. You get to evolve and build it and figure it out over time. And if you keep these 5 career principles top of mind, you will get there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the video for today. I just wanted to share, like I said, those 5 principles that I feel like would have been so helpful for me as I was starting off in my career journey. Because baby, when I say I don't want to say I was lost, but I feel like I just kind of followed the path that was kind of laid out for me. You know, I felt like there was really only 2 options when I graduated. It was either to continue my education and go to graduate school, or it was to get a job. And anything else other than those two options felt like a failure at that time. And of course, like, knowing what I know now, I know that that is not true. And so I also just want to encourage anyone who may be in like an in-between season or not really sure what you're going to do next. Do not tie your entire identity, your entire value to what you do for work. You are allowed to be a work in progress, and you're allowed to figure that out. And you know, I encourage you to give yourself time to figure that out. And while you do that, again, going back to principle number 4, really pouring into other areas of your life and really allowing those to kind of carry you through those tough times or those times of uncertainty or doubt. So anyways, yes, with that, thank you so much for watching if you have watched to this point, and congratulations to any of those people who are graduating in 2026. And if you know someone that is graduating, send them this video. This is a great career gift to give them. Some career advice, some career guidance, some career tips to really get them started. All right, y'all, so that's it. That's the end of today's video. I will see you all in the next one.